who had to flee the country 17 years ago. Our reporter, Fiona Oates, went along with them.
For the past 17 years, the Miszti family have lived in exile in the south. They faced a death sentence if they returned to their homeland, Romania. Coast to Coast travelled with them across Europe, back to that homeland, to reunite with friends and family they thought they'd never see again. Watch Return to Romania on Coast to Coast Monday, Wednesday and Friday next week.
Well, before we leave you, we thought you'd like to have a look at a terrifying ordeal leaving their native country, Romania. Their only crime to go to church and to distribute Bibles. After the revolution at Christmas, Coast to Coast featured the Misztis collecting supplies to be sent to their country. Now they've been home to Romania to distribute the goods and once again see their family and friends. Fiona Oates and a TVS camera team went with them. Here's the first of 3 special reports, Return to Romania.
Basingstoke in Hampshire, home to the Miszti family for the past 17 years following their dramatic escape from Romania. But it's a home, away from friends and family in their native country. Today they're about to embark on a 1,300-mile journey back to Romania. They are taking supplies donated by people across the south, touched by the Romanian people's struggle for freedom last Christmas. The family, Maria, husband Joe and their children, Emmerich and Erica, who was born in Basingstoke, faced a death sentence if they returned to their homeland prior to the Romanian Revolution at Christmas. For the 20 years they lived in Romania, the Misztis were persecuted by the security police, the Securitate. Their only crime, church-going and Bible distribution. The family had to flee for their lives. Emmerich, who was then 9, still remembers the dramatic escape, hidden under a bench in a caravan.
They smuggled us inside the bunk on the caravan across the Austro-Yugoslav border. And that was very, very frightening. At one stage, because we had so little space in there, when they pushed the blankets in when they were searching everything, they'd actually cut off our air supply. And they were there, I mean, we were in there for several hours. I think I probably fainted. I can't remember. I don't remember the end bit of it.
It's a journey the family have dreamed of for years.
I shan't believe it until I'm actually there and I feel the ground.
What about your relatives? I mean, have you told your mother you're coming?
Yes, not my mother. I told my nephew to tell my mother. I didn't have the courage to tell her.
Why not?
Well, I thought the shock would be too much for her to begin with. Secondly, I just didn't know how to explain. I didn't really know what she would think about it.
The overthrow of the communists at Christmas in Romania, the execution of the hated leader Ceausescu, has meant freedom of speech and travel. But the desperate shortage of food and the harsh oppression of the Romanian people has shocked the world. The Misztis launched an appeal for food and clothes, and they poured in from people in the south. It's with these generous donations that the family are setting off to Romania. The family travelled across Europe through France, Belgium, Germany and Austria en route for Cluj, the second largest city in Romania. The last stop before the border, Hungary, and the capital, Budapest. The family arrive exhausted after 30 hours of driving virtually non-stop. They're 6 hours behind schedule, but they're still keen to stock up on supplies for their Romanian friends and family across the border. Food in Romania is rationed. The Misztis' relatives haven't seen cheese or meat for 3 months.
There's sort of the very basic things like oil, sugar, rice. Coffee is a luxury. There's definitely no coffee over there. No toilet paper. You pay for the toilet paper by the sheet. We are planning to bring them over for a day shopping actually to Hungary, if we have time.
Back on the road and another 200 miles to go before the Romanian border. Drawing closer to the land where the Misztis knew constant persecution. Finally, after 3 days of travelling and more than 1,000 miles, the Romanian border. The last time the family were here, they were fugitives. A tense moment and the family worry they won't get through. Then the all clear. The family are back on Romanian soil after a 17-year absence. A chance to stop and savour the moment, to celebrate their freedom.
You know, it's wonderful to be touching this stone. I think we finally made it. All the hard work has finally paid off, and all we can do now is get all this stuff to the people who really need it.
I don't believe it. I really don't know. I'm just, I could bubble away for hours.
For Joe, who speaks little English, an emotional moment.
Thank God we're finally here.
An hour later, more emotion as Joe reaches his birthplace, Cluj. For Maria, the emotion comes later when she greets her mother. The food on the table represents months of ration saving for the Miszti's relatives, kept especially for tonight's celebration. Fiona Oates, Coast to Coast, Romania.
We'll have part 2 of Return to Romania on Wednesday.
And they'd been persecuted by the authorities for going to church. They settled in Basingstoke. Now, following the revolution in Romania, the Miszti family began an appeal to help the Romanian people. They took supplies back home to the families and friends they thought they'd never see again. Fiona Oates went with them. Here is the second of 3 special reports, Return to Romania.
Cluj, the second largest city in Romania and the birthplace of the Miszti family from Basingstoke, who have returned to their homeland after living 17 years in exile in Britain. The first night in the reunion with relatives is over. Now for Emmerich, Erica and their parents Joe and Maria, the real work begins. Distributing supplies given by people across the south of England, touched by the plight of the Romanian people. First call, supplies for the church. It was church-going that forced Maria and her family to flee the country under the pressure of persecution. Next stop, urgent supplies for one of Ceausescu's now notorious orphanages, used as a recruiting ground for the secret police. This one at Cluj has beds for around 260 children, from premature babies to toddlers of 3. The children at this orphanage aren't orphans, but unwanted children, abandoned by their parents who are too poor or have too many other children to look after. Under Ceausescu, women were forced to have large families. Contraceptives were illegal, so was abortion for any woman under 45 or who hadn't had 5 children already. The orphanage is severely underfunded. Maria Miszti is bringing them some clothes and toys and what turns out to be their very first taste of sweets. For Maria, this orphanage has a particular poignancy. It was when the authorities threatened to take her son Emmerich away and place him in a similar institution, the family finally decided to flee the country 17 years ago and settle in Hampshire. The orphanage is short of even the most basic supplies. One urgent need is white cotton sheeting they can sterilise. Laboratory equipment is non-existent. Incubators for premature babies are also required. Some of those seen here have already been donated from Britain. But the revolution has brought hope. Dr. Maria Britz, who works at the Institute, tries to explain why some parents have come to reclaim their children.
It is very difficult to answer that question. The parents always wanted to keep their children at home, and now they see a future for them, a bit brighter than there was before, and they are trying to work a lot harder to see this place through.
Hope for a brighter future is certainly running high, and staff here at the orphanage celebrate Ceausescu's death by teaching the children victory songs. Despite Ceausescu's death, though, a major problem facing many parents in Romania is how to feed their large families. Queuing for food is the order of the day. Rations each month consist of half a litre of oil, half a kilogram of sugar and half a kilogram of rice, with supplements being made from the black market. Fresh fruit, milk and vegetables seem non-existent, so are cleaning fluids and toiletries. In most of the shops, the shelves are empty. Ulrika, Maria's sister, a factory worker, earns around £1,000 a year. 3/4 of this income is spent on food. That is when she can find it.
Going down the shops, it's wasting my time. I cannot buy food, even if I have money. There is no food. Before the revolution, there was no meat. We had very little meat, once in 3 months or something like that, but there was no meat. Since the revolution, sometimes it appears in the shop. We don't have rations. When we find some, we buy some.
The food from Britain has made an enormous difference to this family.
It's like boulders what we have got here, and we just can't believe our luck. We are very lucky. The food is I can't really say what it means to us. It is incredible that people give so much.
The struggle for food and freedom cost 16 people their lives here in Cluj. Wreaths and candles pay tribute to that sacrifice. A Christmas tree still decked with bread symbolises that there'll be more food following the revolution. Fiona Oates, Coast to Coast, Romania.
And you can see the final part of Fiona's journey to Romania on Friday.
Time now to talk to Carl Tyler about tomorrow. From Basingstoke settled in Britain after fleeing their homeland because of fears of persecution. After the revolution in Romania at Christmas and the execution of Ceausescu, the Mistis launched an appeal to help their fellow countrymen. The family travelled back to Eastern Europe with supplies donated by people in the south of England. They were reunited with relatives they thought they'd never see again. Fiona Oates and a TVS camera crew went with the family back to Romania to discover what life is like for the people they left behind. Here's the last of her 3 special reports.
Bucharest, Romania's capital, dominated by Ceausescu's palace, one of the largest buildings in the world. Only 6 years old and still unfinished, the stories about the palace and its construction are endless. Builders are said to have been forced to work on it for nothing. The fountains only ever worked when the former Romanian leader Ceausescu drove past, all part of the facade of success. The palace stands in stark contrast to the ill-constructed, ugly tenement buildings put up by Ceausescu to house the population after demolishing tens of thousands of villages. It's in one of these blocks that the Miszti family from Basingstoke have reunited with relatives back in their hometown after a 17-year absence.
It is my town that has changed a lot. I cannot recognize it. There are streets and streets that I don't know where I am in. The high-rise flats, it's enough to make you cry. All the beautiful houses that I used to see before, they have all gone and replaced by these monsters. High-rise flats that they are not fit to live in, really.
Maria Miszti's mother, Maria's sister and her husband and their 3 teenage children live, eat and sleep in this room. Space is at a premium. Under Ceausescu, each person was allotted a standard living area, about the size of a small garden shed. The revolution has brought hope for improvements. The newfound freedom of speech has already led to a media explosion. Families like the Miszti's relatives avidly watch television, albeit on old black and white sets, for more news of change. People queue for newspapers, anxious for information. Often the papers are resold on the black market for triple their value, paper being another commodity in short supply. This is the headquarters of what was Romanian state television, now Romanian free television. Still heavily guarded, it was the scene of 5 days fighting during the revolution. The British ambassador's house next door was caught in the crossfire and still awaits repairs. It was from the now famous Studio 4 at Romanian television that news of the revolution was first broadcast to the people. Before the revolution, virtually the only transmission on Romanian television was a 2-hour party political broadcast every day. Any other programme was heavily censored. Certain words were banned. Words such as coffee, a substance in extremely short supply. Any storyline had to have a happy ending, and any word with a negative inference, such as darkness or cold, was outlawed.
Prior to the revolution, the Romanian television was not very popular because our programs were very boring and only propaganda. And people, especially in the Bucharest area, used to watch only Bulgarian television or Soviet television.
Now 100 hours more of television is being produced each week, including live coverage of the trials of security police. To help the expansion, television companies throughout Europe have donated equipment to the station. TVS has already sent some equipment to Romania, and more is on its way from the studios in Southampton. Smaller regional stations in Romania, all closed down under the old regime, are desperate to receive help from the West as they begin broadcasting.
This is Cluj television and radio station. It's been running for 2 months and is staffed by just 14 people. Its chairman doubles up as a newsreader, and all its equipment has been donated.
With the elections coming in May, TV stations here are anxious to cover all political developments at the heavily guarded government headquarters in Bucharest. But some feel the changes won't come soon enough, and others still fear the existence of the old repressive regime, the security police, the Securitate, and the authorities who continue to keep watch. For the Miszti family now back home in Basingstoke, the television is still a source of discovering what is happening in Romania. For Joe, Erica, Emmerich and Maria, the shock of seeing the way their friends and family live back home has spurred them on with their appeal.
I was hoping to stop it before we went over, but what I had seen over there, I believe it would be very heartless of me to stop it now when I know the actual facts and the actual needs of the people over there.
They most need books at this stage. I visited the university and it was almost a plea that I got, because all the books were written by Ceausescu, authorised by Ceausescu, edited by Ceausescu. They've got no books on economics, politics, business, philosophy, history. All of it was obliterated.
What shocked you most when you were over there?
There were many things, really. It is a state of the country, it was to begin with. It is so very dull, destroyed, colourless. The people, when we left behind a group of laughing, happy people. I didn't really see happiness on any of those faces that I have met, apart from the happiness of meeting us. It is just, I can't find the word for it, burnt out, no life, nothing there.
Would you ever consider going back there to live?
I'd love to if my children would come with me.
Despite the fact that you say it's burnt out and dull?
I could help rebuild it, yes.
Fiona Oates, Coast to Coast, Romania.
Well, joining me now is our reporter, Fiona Oates, who followed the Miszti family to Romania. Fiona, it's a country very much in turmoil. What were the lasting impressions you're going to take away from the country?
I think the thing that struck me most was the queues for food. It's not that they haven't actually got any money, it's just that when you go to a shop, the shelves are empty. I mean, the family we saw hadn't seen cheese or meat for 3 months. They usually get any kind of thing like that from the black market.
Is it harder for them because they've had their revolution, they had food shortages before, they expected to have food on the table and it isn't there? Can they cope with this?
I think this is going to be one of the problems. We've seen this week quite a lot of violence. The revolution was at Christmas. The people have had a change of government. They're still hungry. They're longing for change. They're longing for food. But obviously it's going to take a while before they start ploughing the fields and the food starts coming through. So I think we might see some more violence.
How long do you think the ordinary people can cope? They must feel terribly frustrated that they can see there's a new government. The elections are coming up in May, and yet nothing seems to be changing for them at a basic level.
It is a problem, and there are 45 political parties now all wanting to have a say, and that number's growing all the time. I think people are going to become increasingly frustrated with the lack of food. They've seen what's happening in the West now. There's freedom of speech, and the longer this situation goes on, the worse it will get.
Briefly then, what do you think is going to happen next?
Who knows?
It's a big question.
I know, who knows? I mean, the elections are in May. The people we spoke to said they fear that the same people really are in government. The communists are still there. They're under a different name now. So some people are quite pessimistic about what will happen. Obviously, the young people, the students, are very hopeful still for change.
Fiona, thank you very much for joining us this evening.